operate in truth, right? Operate in truth. Tell the truth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Gator Truth Florida Football Podcast. I'm Daniel, and on this episode, we're going to take a look at the Gators Gasparilla Bowl matchup against the Tulane Green Wave. Now, with that said, this is a game that, due to some of the circumstances, I don't believe will be as close as it could be. Tulane has had a good season, ended up 9-4 on the year, played for their conference championship. And so, good year for them. Unfortunately for them, they have lost their starting quarterback, who has transferred out to Duke, and are bringing in a first-time starter, former Oregon Duck, Ty Thompson. And funny thing is, Ty Thompson, who's going to start this game, is in the transfer portal, and after the game will be transferring from Tulane. So it's a very interesting time right now for both Tulane and for Florida, especially Tulane, as they've had a good run these past three years. 2 years ago, made it to, I believe, it was the Fiesta Bowl and beat USC. Last year, another great run. I don't think they made a New Year's Six Bowl. Sorry, I don't have it written down in front of me, but still a great year with only 2 quality losses, one of which was a 10-win Ole Miss team. And then this year ending up 9-4 going into this one. And with that said, losing the starting quarterback, having a guy who's on his way out as your starting quarterback, it's always interesting to see how the team will react. Are they excited to be there? I'm sure they're excited to take on a brand name like Florida. I mean, even when we've been down or bad, I mean, teams see the name in Florida. I was there in Vegas in 2022 when we took on Oregon State. It didn't matter that we were 6-6 and ended up 6-7. The fact is that they could say they beat the Florida Gators, and those fans for Oregon State were excited as if they had beaten 2008 Florida Gators. And so I think there will be a little bit of that, but also it'll be interesting. But anyways, one curious balance I want to see is how much that we play our seniors and try and highlight them on the way out versus getting some meaningful game time to maybe some younger guys, such as on the offensive line. Maybe we try out a tackle or two at left or right tackle to get them some snaps. Since right now we are returning 3 of our 4 offensive linemen for last year. Since the last episode, Jake Slaughter has announced he's returning. George entered the transfer portal, then decided to pull himself back out, and Austin Barber announced he was returning as well, leaving just one of our positions, which is a tackle position, open. So I'm wondering how much Crenshaw Dixon plays and how much we maybe try and find a guy who can be capable starting on either side of the line. It is a bowl game. Great time to reward guys, but also a great time to maybe get guys a few reps in preparation for next year, especially against a team that is not quite as talented as you are. And, that goes, running back. How much do we play Montrell Johnson? Of course, the more he plays, the more chance of either injuring himself or, just being fine and having a great highlight day like Fred Taylor after the 1997 season, running all over Penn State. You never know how it could be. We may feature him, or maybe we say, hey, go in, play the first half. Second half, it's all going to be Jackson and Baugh, or Baugh, and we see lots of KD Daniels to get him, a few reps moving forward. Do we see lots of Badger and DK? Or if we get up, do we maybe again take them out and get guys like Mazzell, who has played a lot more, but get him more snaps. Get maybe Abrams and Hawkins, some more experience. And on the defensive side, we've got Cam Jackson, but how much do we see of him as he's preparing to go off, hopefully, to the NFL and maybe get more reps for guys like Robinson, who's a young guy at that defensive tackle spot, and keep Caleb Banks healthy, who also has announced he's returning to Florida. Of course, we've got the young guys at linebacker with the questions about Shamar James and him saying he's got decisions to make. Is that an NFL decision? Is it a transfer portal decision? What decision will be made? Heck, by the time this comes out, maybe it's been made. But behind him, you've got young guys like Graham and Childs and Jaden Robinson and Pup Howard, getting them more experience to build towards next year. And then, of course, we have the 2 games to begin the year in Long Island University. Should have been FAMU, was looking forward to the Marching 100, but we'll talk about the schedule later. And, of course, a so-so USF team, of course, coming in week 2. So this could, in a way, be an interesting use it as a week 0, but also trying to first cap off the season, getting to the 8th win. And, of course, most of our defensive backs, whether it's Gates, Denson, Thornton and Castell, lots of young guys on the back end. So I'm not as worried about the defensive backfield and questioning who might play more or not. Of course, Bridges has been doing well, and it'll be kind of sad to see him go. He hasn't been over the top spectacular, but he's also been very, very solid. And that's not a knock on him to say he's not been playing what I would consider to be a All-American level, but he's been solid, dependable, and that's something that we need. And of course, it brings the experience and leadership to the young guys. But again, how much do we see him? Maybe we see, because he's played some corner, he's played some safety. Maybe we see him a lot. Maybe we see him a little and see guys like Cormani McLean come on and get more experience again against a team that on paper is less talented, especially with a backup quarterback. Now, it'll also be interesting to see how this year's team handles losing some of the depth that we've lost in the that we've lost through the transfer portal so far. Now, on offense, that's not been too bad. Andy Jean, of course, is gone, but he wasn't in the rotation throughout the year. There were rumors that he was going last year, and so he's not really been in the rotation, doesn't really hurt. Meanwhile, like I said, on defense, you've got a guy like Shamar James who might be talking about going to the NFL, but he's talked about decisions to be made. Does that allow him to play or not? But also you've lost guys like TJ Searcy and guys like Jack Pyburn, and not that they're irreplaceable by any means, but they're still depth for this year's team, which means other guys like LJ McCray are going to get those reps and step up. So it'll be very, very interesting to see. I would like to see a mixture of both. Heck, I'd like to see the game be out of hand in the first half, so the second half we can begin at least getting that, experience going for the young guys. Another thing I would like to see, at least on the offensive side, one thing I'd love to see is to see a big time passing game going on. And the reason why I say that is not just to send maybe DK and Badger out with a boom, but also since the last few games, the passing has gone down and down. 133 yards against Florida State, which we won. But of course, passing games got to be better when we face, better SEC teams and better SEC defenses. We talked about how Ole Miss, and again, we won these games, but when we talked about Ole Miss, they're 81st in pass defense. And we, for the most game had 150 yards passing. Same thing, LSU, bad defense overall, didn't take advantage of it, and we can't stay one-dimensional. So also use it as a time to maybe show, here's what we can do. And if anything, it's something that we do that puts it in the back of the mind of, opponents. Like, hey, we saw them do this stuff in the bowl. Will they do it to us? And so they've got to count for it, if nothing else. And maybe we see that. Maybe we've taken that time. One thing I don't want to see us do while I'm thinking about it with DJ Lagway is I don't want to see us run him too much. Sure, he's had a few more weeks to recover from his injury. But again, if we don't need to do it, let's not do it. Let's make sure he's fully healed. The last thing we need is him re-aggravating that injury and then losing time for him, doing spring workouts and possibly spring practice. Why take the chance? Just let him stay back there in the pocket. You've got a line that should be able to handle Tulane for the running game. Just go ahead and do that. An interesting note is Gerald Chapman, our defensive line coach, as I'm talking about handling Tulane's defensive front, did come from Tulane. Anyways, things that pop in my head as we go, right? And then as far as, my screen just freaked out. For those watching and for those listening, you're probably not seeing me frantically like starting to shake my mouse, like what's going on. But anyways, yeah. So on the offense, I do want to see more of a passing game against an overmatched opponent. But of course, if somehow Montrell Johnson is having that Fred Taylor-like day that I referenced from the Citrus Bowl against Penn State after the 97 season, sure, let that go on. If not, let's at least show that we do have some dynamics on a different part of our game we've not shown off for, several weeks now. Possibly we can go back all the way to the Kentucky game, which was pre-bye. So again, things just you want to see and things you want to build on for the future. And then for my third thing I'd like to see from the offense is just go out, have fun, maybe see some fun trick plays. I mean, Spurrier would do fun trick plays in the bowl games, and we've seen it work before, even in bad games. I'm not just talking Spurrier. If you go back, watch the Citrus Bowl against Michigan, not the 2007 one, although that could work too. But I'm talking about the one after 2015. We end up getting killed by that Harbaugh team from Michigan. But we scored on the first drive, had a few fun plays in there. Hopefully we have more fun plays and a lot more success. Of course, I think that Michigan team was a lot better than this Tulane team. But again, have some fun stuff, especially for your fans and players, as it's a bowl game. Means nothing, but in a way means everything for a game. So just have some fun with it, get some creativity. And ultimately, if you can do that and do those things, it should lead to what I believe should be a comfortable victory for the Gators on Friday. On the flip side, let's talk about defense real quick. Defense, things I want to see. I want to see us contain a quarterback in Ty Thompson, who's gotten some experience for Tulane this year as a Wildcat quarterback. The Gators at times have struggled with a mobile quarterback on the 3-game winning streak. Nussmeier is not a mobile quarterback. And meanwhile, Ole Miss, Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart is somewhat mobile, but he's not a guy you would think of as a Wildcat quarterback or a guy you would think that would go to Oregon like Ty Thompson was at Oregon and be a dual threat. Gators did all right there. And of course, Florida State, Cromack, he early on in the game did get some decent runs on the Gators, and I don't know if we bottled it up or if they moved away from their plan, but we did slow it down. Whether he's as as athletic as Ty Thompson, I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see. So I do want to see us contain, especially when we saw guys like Jack Pyburn have success against FSU. He's not here now, so we need to see continued success, and also Cersei not here. So we need to see the continued success and growth of Gomes and of LJ McCray in that regard. So it'll be an interesting thing on defense. So bottling up the run game is something I want to see. And I guess that would be a key. And again, for the defense, overall, I would like to see no explosive passes allowed. This is not a guy known for his passing. Don't over focus on the run and allow a big pass. And overall, I would say, again, with a backup quarterback, with a team that is on a, disappointing into their season, who is limping their way across the finish line like Tulane. Granted, again, the bullseye of where the Florida Gators, they want to come first, there's that there. But I'd like to see us hold Tulane to 14 points or less. We did it against FSU. Granted, FSU, and you can say what you want about record discrepancy, but again, on paper, the talent being, different. But we also held Ole Miss to 17 points, for example. So I don't think Tulane to 14 or less is that big. But it's going to be a good time in Tampa. It's going to be my 40th straight Gator game, which will be really fun. Some of you listeners have hung out with me at various games throughout that 40-game streak. And so it's always nice to see and meet people. Always say hi. I love meeting Gators, both home and away, which has been interesting when it's been away. I've probably actually met more Gators at away games than I do home, but that is what it is. But with that said, we'll have the review either up Saturday or Sunday. And hey, it's going to be a good time in Tampa. We're going to show up. We're going to cheer. Gators are going to get that 8th win of the season, which is something that we could only dream about after the way the season started. So I'll take it. Obviously, it needs to be better in future years, of course. But with that said, for this year, getting to 8 wins will be great, no matter who that comes against. And so I will predict the Gators win this game. We'll say 38-10 over the Tulane Green Wave. And with that said, there's only one thing left to do, and that's to thank everyone for listening. And as always, go Gators.